a pioneer of automotive cybersecurity. We've been active in this domain for a decade now, and our main focus is in the in-vehicle security, especially network security, things like firewalls, intrusion detection systems for light and heavy-duty vehicles. And we have top performance and award-winning products for Ethernet, for CAN bus, and also in the secure boot domain. Today, we're an independent member of the global automotive software supplier NNG, with worldwide offices in the US, Europe, Japan, China, and more. And I'm sure we'll have an interesting panel. And of course, feel free to reach out to me following the event should you have any questions. Thanks.
Of Vdoo. Yaniv, please join us.
Physical devices all around us are becoming connected. Their cybersecurity is critical to our business continuity and personal well-being. The companies that manufacture, integrate, and deliver connected devices all have responsibility to ensure their products are safe and secure to use. But with rapidly growing cyber threats, security demands from customers, and new regulations and standards, achieving device security has become a massive challenge. At Vdoo, our mission is to help device manufacturers and providers implement security throughout their product's lifecycle. With our automated platform, you can quickly detect and efficiently resolve the issues that pose the greatest actual risk. Start by uploading a device image or other binary artifact to identify its software composition, known vulnerabilities, security exposures, and potential 0 days, all without source code. Make it easy for developers to fix security gaps with simple step-by-step guidance. No embedded security expertise required. Speed up your compliance efforts by seeing how your device's security issues map to specific industry standards requirements. Increase efficiency and reduce your product's time to market with intelligent, device-specific issue prioritization, allowing you to focus on fixing the issues that matter. Finally, differentiate your offering and grow your revenue with post-deployment vulnerability monitoring and embedded real-time protection that proactively blocks new threats. Leading companies have chosen Vdoo to help them deliver optimally secure devices, dramatically reduce risk, and create new business opportunities. Put our device security expertise and experience to work for you. Vdoo, securing the connected everything.
Now to our third, sorry, I think that Yaniv, I crossed you before you had the chance to speak, so go ahead and I'll speak later.
Thanks, Israel. It's a pleasure being here virtually with all of you. Just a matter of introduction, my name is Yaniv Nissenboim, and I'm the VP of Business Development at Vdoo, which means to verify in Hebrew, by the way. So Vdoo is a global leader in the product security space, helping organizations to identify, prioritize, and mitigate a vast range of security issues in the software they create or use. With Vdoo, automotive OEMs and Tier 1s can manage all in-vehicle component security risks and compliance throughout the entire vehicle lifecycle, before and after start of production. Our platform is used during the design, development, integration, and operation, and streamlines in-vehicle cybersecurity with automated risk analysis and continuous threat monitoring. In the past 2 years, we've seen significant progress in the automotive cybersecurity, and personally, I look forward to sharing our insight and experience. Thanks.
By the way, although I'm fluent in Hebrew, I never noticed to the fact that Vdoo is actually Vdoo in Hebrew. And now we will go to our third panel member, Mr. Jonathan Apple, co-founder and CTO of Upstream Security. Jonathan, please join us.
With the rise in the number of connected cars and their digitalization, the number of automotive cyber attacks increased dramatically. How can connected cars be secured? Upstream Security is the first cloud-based cybersecurity solution designed specifically for protecting existing and new connected vehicles and smart mobility services from cyber attack or misuse at rest and in motion. By leveraging data that is already being collected by OEM car manufacturers and smart mobility providers, such as connected vehicles, telematics, and mobility applications data, Upstream can protect vehicles already on the road without the need to install agents inside of the vehicles. The Upstream service aggregates, normalizes, and anonymizes all data feeds, and then analyzes them using machine learning and big data analytics technologies. Upstream's cybersecurity engines detect anomalies and cybersecurity incidents and alert the Security Operations Center in real time. Upstream's solution also encompasses a powerful mobility SIM, which is fully operational into new or existing security operations centers with out-of-the-box integrations inclusive of playbook and workflow solutions. A real-time, user-friendly dashboard clearly displays an overview of the mobility service security posture, including connected car risk, cybersecurity, and misuse incidents, and more. The interactive investigation dashboard offers easy options for incident drill down, including the first-of-its-kind mobility timeline, coupled with vehicle context and geographic location. The system also comes with predefined and automated security policies, as well as enabling user-defined policies that can easily be created and applied. Leveraging our experience of working with multiple OEMs and a cloud-driven approach that does not disrupt vehicle production cycles, Upstream's platform integrates into the customer environment in weeks, not years. The result is the most cost-optimized cybersecurity solution in the automotive industry today.
Pleasure to be here. My name is Jonathan Appel, CTO and co-founder of Upstream Security. Our solutions provide multi-layered security, including vehicle communication channels with the backend and backend systems. Additionally, we have another product called AutoThreat, which is the first ever automotive-only focused threat feed. And with these products, we give a comprehensive response to the WP29 and ISO SAE regulations, and we work with multiple OEMs, tier 1s and tier 2s today. My role in the company, so I drive the research activities in the company and also the standard and regulation from the technical part. And thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Three panel members to show their faces, but my voice will still be heard during the panel, of course. So Ziv and Yaniv, please join Jonathan. Hi, Ziv. Yaniv? Okay, no? Yes, okay. So guys, first let's go to the first question on the row. The question relates generally to the challenges of the automotive cyber currently in these days, but I'd like you to look at it from two different perspectives. One is the OEMs tier 1, the OEMs and their ecosystem perspective. What should be their challenges? The other one is from a more egoistic point of view, what are the challenges when you are looking at it from a perspective of a cybersecurity, technology cybersecurity company. So maybe we'll start with Ziv, and then Yaniv, and then Jonathan.
Okay, so I think in certain areas, the challenges might be even the same. So one of the biggest challenges, I think, is the complex supply chain, which makes it sometimes impossible for OEMs to know what goes into their car. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, we were doing some penetration testing on an infotainment system, and first question we've asked is, what interfaces does the system have? And we were told it only has Bluetooth. And then within 2 days, we managed to show how we can hack the system through a Wi-Fi. And the OEM didn't know there's a Wi-Fi in it, and that's because he bought a system from a tier 1. He asked for a Bluetooth, and the Wi-Fi was just there, disabled by software. So I think that's a very big challenge. And the other challenge that is a bit different, but now the regulation imposes a challenge that you need to comply with it in a very short time frame, and you need to find the best way of doing it. So I think these are two very big challenges that the industry is now facing while it evolves very fast. Yaniv, you want to relate to that as well? I can keep talking, but
so you will.
I know we can
So,
keep talking, no problem. But let's hear Yaniv.
Thanks. So from the OEMs and the tier one that we talk with and that we work with, so the main challenge that we are seeing is that R&D is moving to full lifecycle support. So from supply chain through SDLC to fleet security operations. And now we see that engineers will need to handle problems on models that are running on the road. So it means that R&D will need to deal with legacy model. And of course, you need to have vulnerability management, general fleet management, and security operation after start of production. With the supply chain that Ziv mentioned, so yeah, this is a huge challenge that we have now. Specifically, that moving forward, we see more and more software components being shipped to vehicles that are running on the road, and more software that is basically deployed on vehicles. So the software supply chain risk and challenges would just increase, and now the new regulation are working hard to basically help with this challenge. For cybersecurity players such as Vdoo, and I'm sure that Ziv and Jonathan here can relate, so we're seeing more and more opportunities. And the challenges, at least the ones that we are seeing at Vdoo, are around adaptation and flexibility to current processes in OEMs and tier ones, and of course integrations between complementary platforms. So we have here on this panel Arilu, Vdoo, and Upstream, and I'm sure there is no in some point in time we will need to learn how to work together to provide OEMs with the best approach for cybersecurity. Thanks.
So I'd like to add a significant element that we're seeing in Upstream is the fact that today almost all new vehicles on the road are connected, and they're connected out of the factory to backend systems of the OEMs. And that means that it was always possible to hack a vehicle remotely, but the sheer fact that hundreds of millions of vehicles are connected means that a remote hack can create significant results that cause risks basically to the end user. And although that's a quantitative change, basically it also creates quantitative change. And the other fact that is related to that is the proliferation of knowledge and how to hack vehicles. In the early days, it was mainly academic or very, very special knowledge. Today, we're seeing proliferation of knowledge. In the darknet, there are forums and discussions, and knowledge is spreading, which means that the overall risk is rising. Now, the regulations actually address that, but again, I think in reality, these two elements, on top of course, all the other stuff the other panel members said, but this stuff dramatically increases the risk in the industry and to the end users.
Jump ahead, and Yaniv mentioned regulation in his answer, and I want us to relate a little bit to the regulation. And first of all, I want to know your opinion whether this is really an answer to the market. I mean, whether the automotive world is more secured when there are regulations like WP29 in effect in the marketplace, and if so, why? Okay, don't answer me yes or no. Okay. And in addition to this, I'm always puzzled when regulations are coming into areas that are that need creativity. I mean, isn't it not going to narrow the industry down to a channel of addressing the regulation, and by this we might be more exposed from directions that the regulation didn't take into account? So I'll appreciate your answers about it, and maybe this time we'll start with Yaniv, we'll go to Jonathan, and then to Ziv.
Thanks. So although the WP29 is not defining the how, it increased the standard in the ecosystem and basically leveling the field between OEMs. Now OEMs can choose if they care about cybersecurity or not. They just need to follow. And from our experience, OEMs will need to build internal processes to comply with CSMS, restructure the organization, and also adopt new tools and technology. We see that it is done mostly by using consulting, hiring relevant talent, and then choosing the tools and platform for vendors. And we see that it will change the industry. So it will bring secured SDLC, monitoring after the SOP, and of course, by definition, the fact that each and every OEM will need to have product security stakeholder, this will drive the change in the ecosystem to a more secured space. Thanks.
Approach, Jonathan, let's hear what's your take about it.
We all talk about WP29 and ISO SAE, but there are other significant standards, for example, the China ICV, and effectively we're seeing like standards and regulations worldwide taking effect. And that's very important. And I think the combination between WP29 and ISO SAE is especially powerful because WP29 is an obligating regulation that has a very clear list of attacks and requirements to detect attacks based on logs. And on the other hand, the ISO SAE standard is very deep in how to address it. So I think the combination of those standards is, in my mind, it's a very good response to the challenges, just because it's multi-layered and covers the vehicle lifecycle. And in my eyes, the test goes from defining the standards to the implementation, and that's a huge challenge because it requires both organizational changes, acquiring knowledge, and adopting technologies. So I think it's very complex, and we're seeing OEMs making big efforts to stand up to this challenge.
Can add on that. I think first of all, the regulation made a big change because now it became mandatory to secure vehicles, while until now it was seen as some kind of a liability or something that also that only relates to cost, which obviously nobody wants to put more money into its product if it doesn't have to. But to relate to your second question about whether it might limit the creativity or the innovation in this domain, I think the regulation really focuses on what needs to be done, but not the how. So it tells you need to secure, you need to have a security process, you need to monitor, but it doesn't tell you how you should be doing it. And this is where you have more room for innovation or creativity. And I think this is actually the right approach. Doing it, especially in an area like security, which is always developing, it's always changing. You cannot just pick something and then forget about it for 10 years. So this is really an area where you always need to develop, and regulation cannot develop as fast. So it needs to be open enough to bring in many different solutions.
Of the regulation, if not, the whole idea of having standards will be missed. Am I right? Okay. Okay, guys, let's go to our third question. And this one is going to be a classical cybersecurity question, talking about the threats and the main threats right now towards the automotive industry. But again, I want to expand a little bit because vehicle architectures and the technologies that are involved in the auto tech industry are changing all the time. I mean, when I talked before the panel with Ziv, He mentions the fact that the CAN bus was an issue and now Ethernet is an issue, okay? And that's an example. So taking this into consideration, is there something like new threats because of the new technologies, and what are really, to your opinion, the main threats right now? And please relate to the real realistic threats, okay? Which is something important because we need to cope with possible dangers in the future. So maybe this time we'll start with Jonathan.
Two things are changing. One is vehicle architectures, like you said, and the other is functional scenarios. So I think in this period, we're seeing the industry as a whole, run like crazy, progress very, very fast. And we have new functional scenarios that are very sensitive. If we take, for example, a phone as a key. So this is a functional scenario that means that many more elements in the vehicle are exposed to attacks and from more and more attack vectors. And this actually projects inside the vehicle because the more entry points you have and the more exposed these entry points are, the more the inner vehicle components get exposed to. So I think this is a big challenge. And, to address this challenge, again, OEMs, I think the first element is TARA. And this is one of the key points, and that needs to be done by OEMs, but also, of course, development, data collection, post-production, and only the combination of these elements will bring the real solution to both existing and into the new functional scenarios.
With Jonathan here, there's more connectivity coming into cars, and that of course increases the attack surface. While on the other hand, when we look into the vehicle, I think there's also a big change in the vehicle inner architecture. So you see more central computers or HPCs and faster networks, which are good and bad for security, because on one hand, you might simplify the network structure because you take more functionality into single units. But on the other hand, these units are becoming more and more risky or vulnerable because they're so complex, and they also become a kind of a single point of failure in case of somebody's being able to manipulate them. He can cause a serious harm in the vehicle. And I think the ways to address it is really a multi-layered approach of securing the components themselves, securing connectivity to the cloud, and also securing the network and the communication between these units to ensure the best possible security.
Yeah, so basically, Jonathan and Ziv covered everything, but just to emphasize more, so this new architectural changes like ACU consolidation and increased reliance on software and rich OS, and also applications for connected vehicles. Basically, what it does, it increases the attack surface, and it also decreases the segmentation. And when you have these two things together, it makes the life of an attacker an easier life. And then hacking a vehicle, connected component in a vehicle, or a service that is related to a vehicle is much easier. And then it relates to the true threats in the vehicle, in the automotive space, which is not security, but rather safety and privacy, right? Security is just a door opener or an enabler for safety and privacy issues, which is the ones that are truly backed by regulation and that really impose a real threat on the automotive space. It's basically, it's early to say how it will change the requirements, but again, to relate to what Jonathan mentioned, OEM will need to run TARA on a case-by-case basis and then build security architecture to cope with this, and it will be a layered approach, as Ziv mentioned.
To a totally different direction, and maybe I'll start with a small personal history. I'm an aftermarket guy, okay? And always when people are talking about automotive cybersecurity, the OEM has a strong presence there. And I'm telling myself, you know, after the car is out of the manufacturing line, some crazy guys will put telematics equipment on it, will put aftermarket infotainment that are at the dealer level or even really at the aftermarket level. And I'm asking myself, is aftermarket in this game, or simply car are protected enough or will be protected enough? What kind of attention can we give to the aftermarket to make the whole system effective and not to make the aftermarket a problem to the cybersecurity situation of vehicles today? So maybe we'll start with Ziv and we'll go to Yaniv and Jonathan.
Aftermarket is a threat to cybersecurity in certain areas to safety as well, though it's probably a decreasing area because you know, in the past you needed to add lots of functionality to the car as an aftermarket functionality, while today we see more and more things coming built in the car, or you can add them as a software update. So I think it's a decreasing threat for the mass market, but it is a big threat in certain areas, such as maybe heavy-duty vehicles, certain fleets, and so on. And this threat needs to be addressed by the OEM. So maybe the OEM doesn't dictate what you put in the car, but he needs to limit what this added functionality can do to your vehicle. So for example, if I plug in an OBD dongle, that's fine, but the OEM needed to limit the OBD access to certain areas of the network or the car. And I think it's really relevant to, as I mentioned, fleets or certain markets, such as more secured markets or fleets with more exposure to risks. So yeah, aftermarket security is relevant, but I don't think it's that important for the mass market, but more for certain specific markets.
Yeah, so I do agree here with Ziv, and OEMs will need to provide the basic protection at the equipment level, at the vehicle level, and basically try to block attacks that are coming from like aftermarket accessories or dongles. But this is a real threat because OEMs lack the visibility and the control, like for components that they're getting from their tier ones. And one approach to protect it is what Ziv mentioned, is to have like basic protection at the vehicle level. Another way to protect it is to address it like you address the supply chain from tier ones, and basically have a vetting for accessories with security certification. So if you have an accessory or an aftermarket accessory, you can run a certification process as if you're running your analysis for component you're getting from tier ones, and then you will have only aftermarket accessories that are approved. And you can also take it to the next level and block from accessories that are trying to connect to your vehicle and didn't get this certification. Jonathan?
You guys, you know, Ziv and Yaniv said, I think aftermarket is decreasing a little bit. I think a good example of that is the telematics insurance market that is kind of migrating from aftermarket to OEM. You know, and I should say that there are significant risks in aftermarket. We've done some internal research that shows such risks on aftermarket devices. I think responsibility is shared. Okay, the aftermarket device, first, of course, needs to be regulated, like you said, but also should do have threat feed and do TARA, because no matter how good the job the OEM is doing, the aftermarket device itself contains information and capabilities that can be hacked. Having said that, there's also responsibility on the OEM side, both to limit what the aftermarket device can do, as you mentioned, but also to collect data that can indicate remote hacks on connected devices. So the combination of this vehicle engineering and data collection is the key on the OEM side.
An aftermarket guy and give my opinion here too. I agree with what you said, but I don't agree with what you said. And there are two aspects. First of all, I do agree that aftermarket is decreasing, okay? And a lot of things are becoming embedded, and we have data services coming up from OEMs that probably will require another security attention that are trying to replace telematics devices. But we have quite a long way to get there. But we have to take into account two points that might be considered. First of all, aftermarket is not that disciplined as the OEM environment. So sometimes, especially try to take markets, I don't want to install them anybody, so markets that are not exactly Germany or even Israel, okay? And there are people who will try to connect in very odd ways that you didn't even think about. And that happens, and the situations that people are connecting directly to the canvas, not through the OBD, are common in more regulated markets. That's one thing that you need to take into account. The other thing is the fact that aftermarket is, especially on the fleet management and insurance telematics that was mentioned by Jonathan, there are servers. And the servers are not going to go away, and they are not going to stay only as an OEM privilege. Today the situation is exactly the opposite, but OEMs are getting into fleet management and other areas. So I think that there is a lot to look at as far as cybersecurity and aftermarket. This was my 5 cents or 2 cents, whatever you want to evaluate it. Okay, guys, let's go to my last question. And I'm asking myself, there are a lot, and I want to go back to the issue of a multi-layered solution, or is it needed, or can we be satisfied with less than multi-layered solution? And I'm asking myself, first of all, if the current approach, to my understanding, and I'm not a cybersecurity guy, is more attuned to our multi-layered, is really a necessity. And I'm asking myself whether there is some kind of a silver bullet, something that will dramatically change the way we are handling cybersecurity threats. So let's start with Yaniv now, and we'll go to Jonathan and then to Ziv.
Thanks. So, as happened in the IT space and also imposed by the new regulation, a layered approach is needed. And in the automotive space, in cybersecurity, you see today many solutions. But what we see, at least what OEMs are telling us, is that there is a room for better adaptation, integration, and consolidation between different layers and different solutions. And it will happen as the industry will mature. Now, today, you have pieces of the puzzle. You have everything in each and every, spot in cybersecurity in the automotive space. You have at least one solution or more than one solution that can solve together all of the problems that you see. And the consolidation integration will just happen as the industry will mature, as happening in other industries as well.
My 2 cents. So that multi-solution is required, and the reason is just because of the complexity of the problem. Okay, so you have the vehicles that are extremely complex, communication channels, backend systems. The vehicle itself is multi-layered inside, so you can't have a single solution that covers it all. And that's why a multi-layered solution is required. Just as an example, if you see, something, an attack inside the vehicle, it could be originating from an aftermarket device or the OBD port, as we've discussed previously, but also from the TCU or other sources. So that is required. As for a silver bullet, so I think there is no silver bullet. The problem is just too complex Maybe the only silver bullet is really to apply the security methodologies throughout the life cycle, from development to production and post-production, and also, maybe collecting lots of data. So these are the only really systematic things. Other than that, it's just a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I can only agree with my colleagues here. I don't think you'll find a security person who tells you there's a silver bullet for anything. Multi-layer approach is needed everywhere, and definitely in such a complex environment like cars. And I think also as the industry is shifting, even its structure. It's not just the vehicles architecture; it's the whole structure. For example, we see OEMs taking more and more of the software parts in-house. To gain more control of the supply chain. So I think that also influences how and where you do the security. So I think I have to agree, we need many solutions. They exist in the market, not yet in the vehicles, and we need to get them there.
My disappointment of not finding a silver bullet today. I agree with you, by the way, that that's quite a complex enigma. We have few minutes left, so if someone from the audience, I don't see any questions so far. If someone from the audience has any questions, that's the time to post them. Let's give it a minute or two to see if somebody is putting a question. Okay, guys, so I want to thank you for being here with us at the panel. I think that you have addressed the challenges that I've put in front of you in a quite nice way. I don't think it's about challenges for you, but it was challenges for me. And thank you very, very much. Eran, back to you.
Thanks.
Hi. I wish to thank our speakers today for their enlightening lectures and presentations, and to the members of our experts panel for the interesting discussion. Thank you all for taking part, and we hope you enjoyed the webcast today. Bye-bye.